I had encountered a lot of medical professionals even before I started working in hospice. But my first couple weeks working in hospice, I saw something I had never witnessed before. And I never imagined that I would. So I'm at our hospice's inpatient facility, and I had a question. And the nurse I was talking to suggested I find whatever doctor was present right then and ask them. So it turned out the doctor there that day was Jen Reedy, who was the medical director for the whole hospice. And I was walking around in all the common areas looking for Jen, didn't find her, so I'm walking by all the patient rooms kind of peeking in. And I walk by somebody's room and I see Dr. Reedy sitting by a patient's bed. And I knew this person to be in a state that 99% of medical professionals call unresponsive. In music therapy, we call it not able to show response, because people hear until the very, very end. So responses may be happening, but we can't show them anymore. Anyway, I stood outside the door to wait for Dr. Reedy because I figured it would be a short wait. It wasn't. I don't know how long she was sitting there before I got there, but it was at least 10 minutes after I arrived. I peeked in at one point, kind of curious, not trying to spy, but curious, kind of assuming she was doing documentation, which is what I have seen other medical professionals doing at bedsides of people who are not responsive. Or maybe, I don't know, looking something up on her phone. Nope. Not an electronic device in sight. The first time I looked, she was sitting at the patient's side, facing the bed, eyes closed, kind of little Mona Lisa grin, very still and calm. Just looked like she was meditating. And the second time I looked in, about 7 minutes later, she was gazing right at the patient with this amazingly huge, beautiful smile. Absolutely present, completely calm. Those 10 minutes at the beginning of my time working in hospice changed me. I knew after those 10 minutes that I belong to hospice work and that I would stay. And I have. That's pushing 20 years now. Jen Reedy is now chief of the Division of Palliative Medicine at UMass Memorial. So Schweitzer tells us about what he calls altruism. You can call it a number of different things. He wasn't actually speaking English, so that's a translation. But this idea that just as the rivers that we see of people's kindness and compassion are minor compared to what's underground, compared to what's in our hearts, that idea is a powerful one. And I think the idea of people's work in the world being to bring those underground waters more to the surface really speaks to me. In the years that it was my deep honor to work closely with Jen Reedy, she taught me so much about bringing those waters of compassion to the surface. She taught me about facilitating connection in a visible way and with people who are really facing a lot with themselves, with their loved ones. Facilitating connections of folks with themselves, of folks with each other, of anybody who's open to it, connecting with the energy and mystery that is between and around us. So as another way of honoring memorials and the idea of memorials, I want to tell you about an idea developed by Irvin Yalom, who is an American existential psychotherapist, but don't worry, we won't go too far down that road. He is a prolific author, both fiction and nonfiction. He's 92 now. And Irv Yalom's work was incalculably influential. We could talk for a long time just about that. He's most famous for his group work, but just as an example, he developed, as in started, the idea and practice of the cancer support group. There were no cancer support groups before Irv Yalom. I had read his work all the way through school, really influential for me, and right after I started in hospice, he wrote a book called Staring at the Sun. He was about 77 at the time, and He talks about, a fear of death and the unknown is to be expected for all of us. Some people have a real terror, a real debilitating terror and serious anxiety about dying and death. And as an existential psychotherapist, he'd visited with those folks a lot. And he wrote that the single most powerful concept that emerged from all his years in practice to counter death anxiety and also to kind of work against this existential dread and at the transience of life, the idea that, oh my God, this is all just impermanent, is what he calls rippling. Rippling, R-I-P-P-L-I-N-G. It's not just a song by the Grateful Dead. Rippling, as the way Yalom describes it, is the concept that the effect that we have on people is in turn passed on to others. Like if you drop a stone in a pond, you'll see the ripples, and then you'll stop seeing them after a certain period of time, but they actually still continue on sort of a nano level. So the idea that we leave something of ourselves beyond what we look like, or what we wrote, or what we said, beyond our name, beyond specific memories. And it comes out of, in all of our lifetimes, there are millions and millions of moments. And hopefully a good chunk of those are filled with acts of kindness and joy and compassion and connection and meaning and love and hand claps and just showing up. So we work with people to come to trust and really feel how we leave all sorts of traces of ourselves beyond what we will ever know. And that can be a counterbalance to feelings of despair, of meaninglessness. It can also help, I've watched it help people feel proud, help people feel like teachers, even though that's a title they would never give themselves. It can help with the horror of the outside world that people tend to concentrate sometimes on when they're looking a lot at small screens with news playing. It can help with the idea that we're leaving such a mess for our grandchildren, right? We're also leaving all of the ripples of those acts that we don't know are rippling. We're leaving something that's going to be passed on and is going to enlarge the lives of others. Something of us persists and we will never know it. It's imperceptible. And sometimes this is easiest to think about when we think of somebody who influenced us directly, maybe from our family, a grandparent, or somebody whose values you feel like you really received. But who influenced them? And who influenced them? And who influenced them? And who influenced them? This church now makes cupcakes and puts them in little baggies in honor of Sal. But who knows if in 100 years they'll make cupcakes and put them in little baggies and hand them out, and nobody will know Sal's name or his story or the origins of that ritual. But every one of them will feel and learn how sweet it is to feed each other. I work in pediatric hospice too, and I see the ways especially short lives can change people profoundly, can open people, can open the people who clean the room. It's not just the family. Can bring out kindness and compassion, can bring that sort of quivering presence that we have when we realize how short this all really could be. Rippling isn't about legacy in the sense of what we plan and think we're leaving behind, also important, but that's not that. Jen Reedy had no idea that she influenced me as much as she did that day when she just sat in full loving presence at a hospice bedside as the medical director for 10, 15 minutes. She had no idea she was being noticed by anyone. She didn't do that to influence people or to get credit or to put it on a resume. And I would be willing to bet that hundreds of people's lives, thousands maybe, have been changed and affected in ways by each of you that you don't know, that you're unaware of. Often these are first expressed at the person's memorial service, right? Because we just don't say it. We don't get around to it. It's awkward. There's no scaffolding. There's no invitation. We have other things to do. So for the next 10 minutes, you don't have anything else to do. And I'm going to invite you to bring to heart, bring to mind, someone still living toward whom you feel gratitude that you have not fully expressed. I'm going to invite you to spend some time, if you want to, this is a free sanctuary, people, to spend some time writing a gratitude letter. So I've got a few sanctuary helpers who are going to pop up now and reveal themselves to have beautiful paper that Cindy drove around to some office store and purchased for us. There are clipboards and pens at the ends of pews. There are extras that we can bring you if you're bunched up in a pew. There are some pews with no people, and we can move them around. So we, if you want to, writing a gratitude letter, drawing a gratitude picture. You're saying some part of me is different in some beautiful way because of you. I have taken some part of you into me, and it has changed me and enriched me, and I'm going to pass it on to others. Okay? If this is not what you can or want to do, no problem. You're welcome to sit and think and feel and listen to John's improvised music for a few minutes. Who knows, that sitting in silence could be the most important part of your day. Just take care of yourself, okay? If you have questions, if you need help, just raise your hand, and one of us will come to you if you need another piece of paper, etc. We've got envelopes at the doors later on for those of you who promised to send it. All right, ready, set, go. Take about another minute. You don't have to be done. You can finish later. Yeah. So if you wrote, maybe you'll have a chance to visit the person and read it to them. Or maybe you'd want to mail it to them. If you want to make a promise to mail it to them or give it to them in some other way, we'll have Claudette and Cindy and Catherine at the doors. They have matchy, beautiful envelopes for your letters. And if getting a stamp at the door is the thing that would get it into the mailbox, they have stamps for you. Humankind is waiting and longing for all of us who are deepening spiritually, for you who are deepening, for you who are caring for each other, for you who are blessing the world. And it's such a beautiful circle in which we live.